Welcome to Culture on Tap. We are a podcast that is about bridging the cultural gap, one conversation at a time. We have myself, Xavier Bright. We have Paul for the last week next to me. We have Dale sitting next to Paul, and then the man, the myth, the movement, the mangy, Range. the monster behind the camera. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share on anywhere you listen to or watch podcasts. And make sure to hit the bell so that you can get a notification whenever we have new content that come out, so that you can tap in with us. And so that we can be a resource for you, whether to challenge and or encourage you. So there you go.
So,
good.
Glad to have everybody here today. I tried to say something else. So no. Glad to have everybody here. Let's jump right into fun facts with Range.
Before you get into this, I was thoroughly impressed by the last fun fact with Range.
The water stuff?
That is, I am mind blown.
But are you more impressed that he knows it?
I'm more impressed that he knows it.
But are you more impressed with the fact that he doesn't know how he knows it, and he's shocked that we all don't know?
No, I'm pissed off that he doesn't know how he knows it. But I'm impressed that he knows it.
When he told me, I was like,
yeah, it's crazy.
He said to me, like, everybody should know. I'm like, why would I know this?
That's very specific.
Yeah.
So, a fun fact is, maybe you did or did not know this. Range was raised Catholic, correct?
Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and slide this around. Range, what is your opinion of the Crusades?
Of the what?
Crusades?
Yeah. You know.
It's the same opinion that I have of the Roman Empire.
Oh. Fake news.
Yeah.
Hashtag didn't happen.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know anything about it.
Surprise.
What?
No. The only reason that I've heard of it is because we had had this conversation at Dale's house the other night.
So what was the conversation? Let's dive into that.
It was the same as the Roman Empire. And Dale was like, well, what about the Crusades?
So I said to him, he said, I don't know what you're talking about, the Roman Empire. Like, I've never heard of such. I'm like, you were raised Catholic. Like, a huge portion of the Roman Empire is Catholicism. And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, Catholicism, Roman Empire, Crusades, the movement that they did. And he's like, I've never heard of such.
Roman Catholic Church.
Literally called it.
Literally the name. This is the name of it. Headquartered in Rome.
Well, the verdict is still out on that, right?
The verdict.
Oh, right. Verdict's still out. Yeah. Jury's in. Verdict's out.
But
the church that I went to was not called the Roman Catholic Church.
What was it called?
It was called St. Joseph's Catholic Church.
Well, they're out. Oh, God.
So just for the sake of the podcast, what would you give us what you think the Crusades could possibly be about?
Oh, I don't have a clue. I've never even heard that word.
No. Oh, no. Abort.
You never.
There's no reason to abort now. Right? No. Until the other night, whenever you said
that
it.
was the first time you ever heard the word crusade.
Yes.
Richard the Lionhearted?
The what?
You ever seen Peter Pan? Or not Peter Pan, Robin Hood?
Robin Hood?
Mm-hmm. The animated Disney movie.
Yeah.
John Williams.
Yeah. Okay.
His brother, King
Richard?
The
I have no idea.
Lionhearted. And he was a lion in the movie, but that was the portrayal of why he was not there and Prince John was in power was because the king, King Richard the Lionhearted, was away at the Crusades.
You've got way too far.
No, that's
You're way too far. Like you're being ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, clearly I'm a part of an occult here. Clearly.
Yeah. So
what did you?
that's
So no, you keep it. What did you study? Because I would assume. No. I mean, like when you go to Catholic church, I would assume you studied the Roman Empire, Roman Catholic Church, and the Crusades. Like I mean, it was a big deal, and I wasn't Catholic, right?
Yeah, but I don't think they're too proud of it. I don't know that they would teach that. Not from a Catholic perspective. That's not something that I'd be like, you want to hear about the Inquisition? Probably also not the top things that
so, I mean, I learned about it in school.
Right.
You didn't.
Yeah, you didn't learn about that in school. Like
No.
that's where I learned about it. You didn't learn. Well, you didn't do math, all right? Or what was
No,
the
we
subject?
didn't
Was
do
your
math.
biology?
Science. He didn't take science
He
in high
didn't
school.
do science. So
Okay. We had that at the homeschool. Okay.
wow. Well,
yeah.
I don't think I'm shocked by you not knowing what the Crusades are. I'm shocked by you didn't even know that crusade was a word. Never heard that before. Okay.
Well, speaking
Wow.
of studying, that transitions well into our conversation today. So we are going to talk about should Christians homeschool their kids. So, one, it is a joke that we quite often, I can't speak for anybody else, like to point out when you might be showing some homeschool traits.
Yes. It is one of your favorite things to do, my friend. It really is.
But I also thought, honestly, I thought this was actually my wife's idea. She said, this is the episode that y'all should do because, just to give you some like background context, Xavier's 3 children are homeschooled. My 2 older children are homeschooled. You were the only one in the room that was homeschooled, but only one of your children is homeschooled, correct?
Correct.
And then none of Range's are right now, but their plan is after elementary too. So I just think it's very intriguing. Like you can speak it to it different than the rest of us. And I think that there's this huge movement right now to push Christian kids towards homeschool.
Oh, yeah.
So let's just start with this. What comes to mind when you hear the phrase homeschool? Maybe laugh. Just Paul.
Yeah, I could answer that a lot of different ways. I think of I think it's a multi-billion-dollar business of a Becca book. Like at this point, I know they were a billion-dollar business when I went to college at PCC, but like a Becca book is one of the largest, if not the largest, like homeschool curriculum.
I literally had no idea what you were talking about right then.
Yeah, no, they're huge. They're a big deal.
I'm sure they are.
But it's just crazy to think. Like that's why my college tuition was so cheap, though, was because of a Becca book. Like that's what keeps the tuition of the college down, where it was like $8,000 a semester, and that included your room, board, everything.
I was about to say, so was your college homeschool also?
Negative. That was not. So I dual enrolled my senior year. So first through 11, actually pre-K through 11, I was at the residence at Lyndon Sandlin.
Question.
And then
Bro, was your college homeschool?
Well, he's talking about this.
Here.
was your college homeschool? you went to
I went to college. I went to junior college and to university.
But the reason it was funny to me is when he said it, all I
I
see
guess
is
there is
you
a difference.
going, all right, Mom, I'm leaving from high school to homeschool around the corner. I'm here.
like walk out the back door and then come back in the front door. Like just go through the
the way that you were explaining the curriculum and the way that you said that your schooling it was cheaper, it made it sound like
I mean, college homeschool.
it's not that far fetched because there's so much college that can be done online.
That's valid.
It's true.
So,
True. Well,
I can see how you got
but
there.
I figured you might just been ahead of your times,
So what comes
way
to
back
mind?
then.
Well, I think for me, like one of my favorite parts about it was the fact that it was so immersed in Christianity. Like I feel like for me, my experience was you couldn't say homeschool without also thinking about Jesus. Like it was like
That's cool.
first, like as soon as you're getting into it, I will hide God's word in my heart that I may not sin against Him. It's like that was one of the first memory verses, almost just like a Wana or something. You know what I mean? It's like immediately just this. By the way, science. By the way, math. All these things. Yeah, like it's part of God's universe. It was all from a Christian biblical worldview, which was super impactful to me. Obviously, it's part of why I am the way I am, who I am.
X. What comes to mind?
I would say for me is as of late, there's a positive connotation that's connected to it. Before, it was negative. Not from the. I don't make fun of you about the homeschooling thing, but like everybody that I like, there was a guy that I played basketball with. He was really good at basketball. He was homeschooling. It was like, oh no, like he's going to be weird, or he's going to be socially awkward because he's not around. And he's like, no, he was fine. The only time that he wasn't around us was whenever we were at school, but like it was just this negative connotation even as a kid, and he was better than most of the guys, but he was also just a regular kid who played basketball, and he was just a regular kid. He just didn't go to school with us, but there was just always this negative connotation attached to it. So before my kids, that was the thought process. But now with my kids and seeing them in social circles, seeing them interact, just the immersiveness of us being able to do life with our kids, and just the positive connotation that it has now is just. I don't ever want them to. I mean, I don't think they'll ever go back. But who knows? But I don't see them going back to public school or anything like that. So,
Yeah, I would say when I think of it, very similar. Like for a long time, it was very negative connotation because I was like, I mean, I joke with you, but like I don't like the things that make me laugh about you have nothing to do with homeschool. I like to joke with you because I know you grew up in homeschool, but it was a very negative thing. Like everybody I knew growing up, that was homeschool was very socially awkward, and it never was two and two together. Like they would probably would have been socially awkward
at school.
even if they'd have gone to
I was
public.
gonna say, yeah, it's like,
But from my head, it was like it's, somewhere it was ingrained to me. That's why they're socially awkward.
right.
Mhm.
But since my two older ones are homeschooled now, like I wouldn't change it. Like I love it. Like the amount of time we get together, it's been a huge blessing for me and my two older ones. Not because we talked about it a couple episodes ago about having a special needs daughter. It's probably the only time that I get to engage with them where Ryan is not the focal point of the house. And so it's a really cool time where we get to do different things together, and it's really, really cool for us.
That's awesome.
So let's kind of give our backgrounds. Like Paul kind of gave his that he grew up going to homeschool, which led him into college, and it's kind of his spiritual background.
Went to homeschool college.
According to Range, he went to homeschool college.
Well, I feel like what everybody kind of alluded to, but no one said it too, is like it's just about personalities. Like God gave us each a personality, and we were all going to end up being extra extroverted or very introverted no matter what. And I think that just homeschool or public school can help shape that or the lack thereof, right? So you got an introvert that's homeschooled. He's that guy you were scared of and worried about versus, someone who's super extroverted.
I do think, and I mean, we'll get to this in a minute, but just I'll get to that in a minute where I talk about my concerns when I was looking at homeschooling, specifically our daughter. I didn't have the same concerns when Ethan wanted to. So Xavier, you made the choice last year. Was that 2 years ago? I can't remember.
2.5, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't my choice.
Or y'all did. I mean, you and Lauren.
No, it was. So Lauren had an inclination to homeschool. She felt as though the Lord was telling her to homeschool, and I was against it because of just the negative connotation, like I said before, that was attached to it. Not that I don't think that she's capable or anything like that. There was a little bit of like, my wife's a free spirit, so if she's like, screw school today, like, how many of those days are going to add up, type of thing. But it was more so like I don't want my kids to be dumb, right? And not that my wife is dumb, but it's just like, it's just ingrained in you that, they learn how to read at school. They do all of these different things.
8 hours a day, by the way, too.
Right.
Sun up, sundown. That's where they need to be, basically. Yeah.
So that's where, there was just a lot of just angst. So she decided to do it right before she got cold feet, and she was like, "No, well, they'll just go to public school." But she was miserable. They were miserable, and we just saw the effect that it was like, okay, like even me, I'm like, I think, heck, this may be it. But for me, it was like, Lauren, this is obviously I'm going to be here, but this is your thing. So if I was in the place of, I think we need a homeschool, but she wasn't, I don't think it would have been good leadership for me to put that on her. Right. So with her, like, this is your mission field for this point. This is what you feel like the Lord's calling you to do. So you have to do it with excellence. It's not going to be my decision. I'll support you either or. But it was a call from her, and it was just me just kind of, just being the person that I am, the visionary, the logistics, the steering, the helping, the encouraging. But she has been entrenched in it, and the first couple years was rough. Personality clashing with Deuce and now Kaya, but she's loving it. I'm loving it. I get to go home and see my kids. They get to come to work with me sometimes. Like, it's just, I just love it. So
yeah. So my story is completely different. So all three of my kids were in public school from the time they could, and we noticed when Charlie went into middle school that it just wasn't a good transition, and a lot of it had to do with the expectations and the standards that we had for our daughter, and it was for a while there. It was just like she wanted to do this, like she wanted to be a cheerleader and these things, but she was really struggling at being in the drama at the school. And then we noticed that she struggled with anxiety and different things. And so 6th and 7th grade year, she really did okay, but didn't do great. We started noticing like a drop in grades and just things like that. But then her 8th grade year was just bad. Like there was very few weeks that we didn't have to go get her from school crying, just upset. And that's the thing, like it wasn't like and I'm not saying this for kids that aren't popular. She was an extremely popular kid. So it wasn't like she was the butt of everyone's joke and we're rescuing her from that situation. Not that I wouldn't rescue my daughter from that situation. It was just overwhelming for her. And then the thought of going to the high school really made her struggle. And she wanted to focus more on different things. And she's talking about homeschooling. So I just told her, I said, you need to put your ducks in a row and present it to us. Because I was a hard no. Like I was like, this is an opportunity for her to lean on her faith to conquer these things and rise above and prove to herself that she could do this. And someone was just a fear of the idea, and then she presented it to me and Michelle, and I was kind of blown away by her perception of what she wanted to do, how she wanted to be about it, even to the point where I had Xavier take her to dinner one night, him and Lauren, and just like have the conversation, and he came back and was like completely convinced, like she knows what she wants, and I think this is a good thing. Not that his saying that was the decision maker, so we prayed a long time about it, and we finally just like realized like the reasons we were trying to leave her in school, because our biggest concern was that she would become isolated and not interact with people, which is still a struggle. It's still a struggle for her, but even in those struggles, the positives, the growth that we've seen with her have way outweighed the negatives. Like you said, it's not 8 hours of school. It's like she does her school, but like every day she comes down, and when me and Michelle are having coffee, like as soon as we're done with our personal time, she comes down and we either watch like a YouTube video together, or we just talk about something, or we'll go to the store together. It allows her to do. There's been days where like I'm going to go work out at Youth Reach, and she rides with me and spends the day with Lauren and her kids. Like there's been days where she gets to do those kind of things, and we've just seen, not just for ourselves, but like testimony from multiple people that don't see her as much, like the maturity and growth that they've seen in her in doing this. And I think a lot of it's just the anxiety level going down, like and her getting to focus on the things that she loves.
That's awesome.
To the point where her brother was like, hey, like at first he was like, no, I don't, like we asked him, like, 'cause selfishly we were like, well, crap, if we got one in the homeschool, you might as well homeschool, because then
we ain't got to worry about taking you out of school.
No, because
Right.
with Ryan being in special needs, like, yes, she goes to public school, but it's life skill training, so we can take her out for 3 weeks. Absences don't matter for her. So, like, you're the only thing keeping us from just doing whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
And so, like, and at first he was adamant, like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to continue going to public school. I want to be around my friends, blah, 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 blah. And then after his sophomore year, he basically came to us and said, you know what? I realized that I am closer to my friends at Youth Reach than I am closer to my friends at school. Not that he doesn't still like those friends. He goes, and if I homeschool, I get to spend more time with them, which is true. And so he made the jump this year. So they're both homeschooled, and it's gone unbelievably well. Like, I mean, we've definitely had some hiccups with them both being home, but most of the time it goes really, really well. And just him setting up the trajectory of where he wants to go in his life and what he wants to do, I think has been a huge. And I'm telling you, I would have been a poster child for anti-homeschool. Not that I think it's wrong. I just didn't want it for mine, per se. Like, I never had a problem with people that made that decision, but that's just not what I wanted.
But you look at the effect, right? Like you said, they're in school for 8 hours a day. They're being influenced by whomever and whatever, especially nowadays. But like, you see the growth in Charlie. Well, I call her Chuck.
Okay.
So, but you see the growth in Charlie, and it's like that's a result of her being very closely discipled by her parents.
Yeah.
To where every minute of every day, well, maybe not every minute, but most of the time, she's being discipled by you and Michelle. So you're going to see exponential growth in
100%.
that. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing with our kids, just the growth that we're seeing in them. And obviously they're a lot younger, but they're not a lot younger, but it's still like we are the main influence.
Yeah, I mean,
That's it. Now, what I was going to add, you mentioned the 8 hours thing again, and just the stigma, right? And I feel like we as Christians and just people in general need to challenge the stigma that because you show up in a drop-off line at 7 a.m. and you're dropping them off for 8 hours, that does not mean that if they were at home and you spent 4 hours with them, they would not be getting twice the knowledge, twice the
Right.
wisdom,
Right.
learning other
So,
things
yeah.
that they
Right.
don't get
So
at
I
school.
can tell you,
like,
Right.
my kids
Right.
being teenagers, they will be done with their semester before we leave for Guatemala.
yeah, that's so
and,
cool.
And they won't have to go back till after Christmas. But on top of that, because they are teenagers, they both have three. They haven't gotten them all yet, but I have bought for both of them 3 Christian books that I want to be read that feeds into what's going on in their life to help in those areas. We are creating our own walk through the Bible curriculum where the author of each book and those things like where they will walk away with some of these teachings. But like the reality is most days, 2 hours, they're done with what they have to do with school.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
2 hours. And which opens up different conversations, different things we can talk about, kind of things.
Yeah.
For sure. So here's a question. We kind of talked about what made us homeschool or not homeschool. What do you believe some of the we've talked about positives. What do you feel like is some of the negatives for you when it comes to
Well, do you want to know Miles' story? Because I didn't.
absolutely.
I
I'm
didn't-
sorry. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So for Miles, and I
'Cause
I can roll right into that.
Well, and it kind of explains too. Like you've only chose one
yes,
right now.
correct. Yeah. So this year our 2 little started school, and they're just in kindergarten, and we're super blessed in Tennessee. Like our principal is like self-proclaimed Christian, and like our teachers are Christians. They're very vocal about it. Our kids have Federation Christian athletes, even as children, like little kids. Like every Wednesday morning, they have a 15-20 minute devotion. And all of our kids are part of that. And on Mondays, for an hour and a half after school, they have Good News Club. And that's where,
awesome.
that's what, I mean, and they love it. Like they come home singing the songs and telling us, like Zai telling us stories, like Bible stories. That's dope. And that's happening at public school. So
That's really cool.
In some parts of the country, that's still a normal thing to be able to send your kids off and feel like this is good for them. And this is a good thing.
Right.
Not to say there's still not challenges too.
Yeah, for sure.
But with Miles, it was very much, it has to do with foster care. It has to do with his past and his background and identity issues. And we chose to homeschool him. A lot of it was because he wanted to be homeschooled. He could not withstand the temptations and just different things that he was getting pressured with at school. And it's crazy because, again, like our kids aren't the kids they were when they came to us. They've grown so much and matured. But,
sure.
he came to us and was like, I want to do this. I need to do this. Like, I can't handle going to school and being around those types of people. And, and also it's just, the world we live in today, you get to pick and choose your gender and your identity depending on the day of the week it is.
Yeah.
And he was starting to catch on to that. Had a girl that wanted to be called by a boy's name and be a boy that was just a grade older. And that wrecked him. Like, in 4th grade. And he came home and told us about that. And he was like, I don't want to be around that. So we were very proud of him that, like, he was able to, like, articulate and tell us that. And, again, his story, his trauma, his past, like, he don't need to be around that because he's been subjected to enough of that as it is already. And, but that's why we chose to homeschool him. And to say it's been easy would be, like Becca is incredible. She's a trooper.
Yeah.
She's a trooper because there's been days that's just been crying, praying, and trying to work through it. Because it's usually only a couple hours, just like you said. But goodness, sometimes there's days we're fighting for hours just because he ain't at the headspace. But again, that's dealing with a 10-year-old versus a.
Well, I mean, no, it's still. I would say the reason ours do better, is because we tell them, like, so we're going to Guatemala, and then after Guatemala, shortly after that, we're leaving for Orlando. Understand, and because of the situation, we get to, like, Michelle's mom lives down there, so we're staying extra days to visit besides the trip. But we've made it abundantly clear that if you're not done with school, you'll sit in her house and do school.
Right.
So, like, and not that you could do that with all ages, but, like, it's a lot simpler when they're high schoolers and they basically can do their own thing. Like, there's days where Ethan's like, hey, I'm going to do mine tonight and sleep in tomorrow. And I'm like, cool. Like, do you? Like, we don't usually let that happen because we want you to get up and usually he goes to the gym with me. But even that, like, I think that's probably the biggest blessing for me
Mm.
is every day that I'm not at Youth Reach, we get up, we go to the gym together, and that's our time. Like we spend a couple hours there. It's great for our health, but then too, it's just us being able to connect.
That
Yeah.
the value that holds is
Mhm.
uninestimable.
Well,
Mhm.
It's so
like
good.
people don't realize. I mean, all of y'all will get there. My son is 16, like, and I am someone that wants to be important to him, but the day is coming quicker than I want that I do want him to move on
Right.
and be a man and figure those things out. But like even now, like him telling me like, Dad, I want to, like, he's narrated. He wants to either be a flight attendant, or work on. He said I've considered working on cruise ships. Like right now, he does not want to go to college. We're not pushing him towards that. If that's not what you want to do, cool. He's like, I think I want to be a flight attendant and just I'm single. I want to travel the world, see these things, and you know what I do after that, who knows? And but like even that, like in my head, I'm going, cool. That's awesome that you know what you want to do, but that's not with me. Like you're leaving me. Like, and he's even had those conversations like what if I get a roommate and like because he talked about like one of the youth reach guys, they graduate, we can get a roommate and I can do those things. And Charlie talking about like I'm 16 and 15 and like before long they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
And so for me, like
Dang.
I want yeah
You on the backside
Yeah,
of
like,
that slope there.
bro,
That's crazy.
it's here. And
Yeah.
like I said, I DJ on the side, so like I'm doing all these weddings and I'm watching these daddies with their girls, and I'm like I don't even know these people. And I'm like getting emotional. I'm like, oh, I'm not crying for you. I'm crying for me. Like it ain't, I don't know you. Like you do your dance. Like
That's gonna be me next week.
yeah, but but like
Yeah.
for me, that has been a huge positive. So for me, the negatives that we have seen is one, it's very easy to get lazy and apathetic in what we're supposed to do, putting things off, because there's always tomorrow. And,
Yeah.
and because we do know what Charlie struggles with, and we do know what Ethan struggles with, forgetting the clear line of like, this is what you've got to do. Like you struggle it, like you don't do well at getting out there, meeting people. You still got to go do that.
Right.
Like, we still got to, like, it's easy for you to be secluded in this house. Another huge negative that we've dealt with, it's a positive negative, like, because we're around each other so much, there's definitely this level of comfort with us, and we have to remind them, like, you're still our kids. This is not your marriage. Like you don't get to go do everything with us. Like, you don't get to, like, you're still my kid. You're still going to talk to me as your father. We're not friends.
Right.
And
Right.
so, like, but it's, as they've gotten older, because we're all sitting there, like, I'm working in my office, Michelle's working in her office, so we're all
Right.
in the house, and it's just sometimes it causes some moments for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah, I would say the negatives that I see would definitely be there's always tomorrow, because then there's always tomorrow turns into a week and a half, and it's like, what
Yeah.
are we doing?
no, and I'm sure you feel like me too, like, because like I'll be at youth reach, and I'll come in, and she's like, babe, we didn't do nothing today. They were on my nerves, and I'm like, I don't want to be like, I want to be like, we shouldn't do that, but at the same time, I'm not having to deal with
Right.
them.
Right.
I would have
Yeah,
probably done it
I know.
too.
Right, right.
Mhm.
So that is, at this point, I would say that would be the only negative. There is the aspect, but this is like just their sinful nature and them being kids. It's just like there's some times where it's like pulling teeth, just getting them to do what they're supposed to do. But again, 9, 7, and 5, like,
Right.
it's understandable.
Yeah.
But
Still
like,
gonna be
it's,
there at 16 and 15.
Yeah.
that's just the reality of it. Whereas, whenever they were in a charter school, like, they loved being, and they loved being there, and they wouldn't get in trouble and or anything like that. But even now, they love homeschooling. Like they don't want to go back to public school, but like there is just that constantly pulling them along. But those are really the only two negatives. I love the fact that, heck, whenever one is getting on Lauren's nerves or they're done early, like they just come to my office and they're with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? While I work, or like I love that aspect of it. Like it is a chance for life on life discipleship with my kids.
Yeah, that's for sure a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, would y'all agree or disagree with this statement? So there's because I have on here like biggest problems with homeschool. Because I am not saying, in no way would I ever say that Christians need to homeschool their kids. Because I would argue, like even though I do agree with what you said with your son and things that go on, whether you rescue them from a moment, it's still out there. Like whether like. Because, I mean, I feel like for anyone, there has to be this level of fear. And I think you even admitted you kind of walked this, like you homeschool all through high school, and then you go off to college, and you get dropped right in to something that you haven't dealt with. Like, and I'm not even trying to condone saying that's why your kid needs to go to public high school so they can get drunk a few times and sleep around, and then they're a better pro for when they go to college. That's not what I'm saying. I think you can equip your kid that they never have to do those things.
Yeah.
I am not someone that says having a child that's a virgin until they're married is a pipe dream. I think it's all their desire and your leading and equipping. However, I think there is some truth to when we're pulling kids from school just to hide them from truth. Truth is still going to hit them between the eyes at some point. I don't think our goal is to hide them. I think our goal is to equip them to face truth in a godly manner. And what I see a lot of times is the two things that I struggle with homeschool. First of all, public school. I think as Christians, if you're choosing to leave your child in a public school, which I am perfectly fine with, we are taking way too much of a hands-off approach to the things that are being poured into our children's heads and hearts. And that's not just public school. That's social media, all of it. And that is a dangerous thing, because if you think the school is out to show your child how to be the best godly person, that is never the goal.
Yeah.
And so that's a struggle. But my biggest struggle, I think, with homeschool that I see is the agenda still isn't to create a more godly person. Like when we pulled Charlie, it wasn't because she just struggles with anxiety. We pulled Charlie because we believed as parents that we could help. Like, and that's one thing I told Michelle. Like, if we don't have a game plan to equip her to conquer with Christ the things that she struggles with anxiety, then we failed. Just pulling her out and letting her rescue to the home where she doesn't have to deal with those things, that's not fair. So I think that too often we just pull our kids from situations and don't address the situation and equip them to be better, and we're setting them up for just later failures.
That is a picture of a lot of my childhood.
Yeah, because me and you've talked about when you got out in public, like got out on your own, you went wild.
It was a bunch of face plants.
Yeah,
and realizing, okay, now I got to rein myself back in.
Right,
and luckily,
and
I
feeling
never
like
felt too
like you felt like you defeated. And felt,
but my rock bottom was truly not that bad. Wild meant not that much. Like it wasn't that wild.
Right,
like it's, and I think that was a lot of because of my fear of going that wild, because of how I was raised and sheltered and all that stuff. I definitely was fearful of it.
The other thing I struggle with from a homeschool perspective is when we are doing it with selfish intentions.
Homeschooling with selfish intentions?
Like, for example, like I think my kid is phenomenal at this, so I'm going to pull them from public to hone in on this thing that I want to see them become famous at.
Because I feel like it's more selfish to leave your kids in public school, and I feel like I can say this because I've got both now, but I feel like it's more selfish to leave your kids in public school than to, like, I feel bad now because it's like Miles is getting all this one-on-one attention.
No, and I get that. No, so, I mean, I think there's a
and it's like we
I
just
think some parents,
drop them off at the door, say bye-bye, see you at 3.
I think there's some parents that have to work, and it's not an option to homeschool. I get your. What I'm saying is like when you see a kid that is maybe talented at baseball or talented at basketball, and they go, "We're going to pull him from school so he can literally practice basketball all day long."
Oh yeah, no, that's obviously not okay.
Yeah, like to me,
And that's obviously
all you're doing is creating again that this is your identity. Like,
oh yeah,
we have
you're
literally
setting that kid up for failure for
and
sure.
don't get me wrong, public school does the same thing. If you're a star, like that's who you are at the school. But at least there, you still got to like supposedly still need to go to class. But when you do it as parents, like these people don't care about your kid that way. As parents, when you do it, you're saying we have invested all of it, and you make it, and if you don't, we failed.
Yeah,
you failed.
And you failed. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's I think my biggest hang up is as having teenagers, we've met. There's like some co-op groups that we can meet with, and meeting like we met this young lady that I met. We did a DJ event, and she's so sweet. And I just like, so you're homeschool? She goes, yes. And this is honestly, I am a model, and my mom is helping me with the goal of becoming a supermodel. So I no longer go to school. This is what I do all day long, and I'm just like, wow. And the crazy part is like she showed up, and like you could tell she just wants to have friends. Like she's like, I just want to hang out with kids my own age, and I just want to dance. Like she didn't bring a boy to the dance. Like, and she just like anybody that would dance with her, she was like, I just want to dance. I just want to be a kid, and like it just broke my heart. Like I'm like, not that being a model or a supermodel is per se wrong, but I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like,
yeah, I've got a friend named Cam, and I know he wouldn't mind me sharing this. He's 20. He's not even 21 yet. And he is not in college now, but he was on a football scholarship and tore his hip. And it's like he's been very open and honest. It's like his world is just like shattered. 'Cause he's just like, he can't even watch a game of football. He like hates football. He went from literally playing it from the time he was like 6 years old to now like he can't even watch a game because it makes him want to cry because he literally can't play it anymore. It was like that was his identity. Yeah. And so there's so much truth to that because he wrestles with it, and I've been trying to, speak into that. But he's just at a place where he just still wishes he could go back a few months because it's like it was just, he's
and it's not. And the crazy part is it's not even just sports because, like, I mean, Range, you've talked about people that have pulled their kids to school solely to do livestock and stuff, which is
do farming.
And I mean, and again, I'm not saying that those things in themselves are wrong, but when you teach a kid at that young age, this is our entire family's focus. That's a lot of pressure on a kid. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot of pressure on an adult. But it's, I mean, for a kid to have his whole world rewire to everything points back to this.
Couldn't you argue that's what people did probably like 100 years ago, though?
And give an example.
I mean, if you were a farmer, if you were a business person, if you were whatever you were, you ended up doing the family business. Would you argue that maybe that's just more of like a modern, like you can be whoever the heck you want to be and you can go 100 different ways? Do you think that's a first world problem that we have now that 100 years ago that probably wouldn't have been viewed as like I even think 50, 60 years ago?
I think the difference is they were passing on a livelihood to feed their family, where today we're hoping for a legacy of fame and stardom.
Gotcha.
Like even in the, like, so that, like, I think livestock back livestock back then was I have worked my hands at creating this farm that's fruitful for our family, and I'm passing it on to you, son, to feed your generation. And like, could there be pride in that? Absolutely, there could be. Where now we've even turned livestock into a competition scholarship, like that. Rain went to school on scholarships. Oh yeah, just it. Like the crazy part to me is everything we do now boils back to fame. Yeah. Whether that's social media driven, like it's literally, there's nothing anymore that's just like literally we're talking about pumpkin carving. Like we've created TV shows of the top 10 pumpkin carvers.
No, kid that was a year older than me on my street got over $100,000 for his heifer. It was set a record at the Houston rodeo.
Like a literal heifer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it like set a record at the Houston rodeo back in the day. And I mean his Texas A&M school bill paid for. Like,
I guess
that's
I guess
insane.
for me, like this kind of
Yeah.
maybe it's varying from the whole homeschool thing, but I guess my question is, how many things have we taken away from kids that they love and turned it into something that they no longer can love because now it's about fame and pride and
Mhm.
like I don't know. So as we,
That's good.
I think we've had some really good conversation. And I would just tell you like, so what is the biblical approach to what type of school your kid needs? My initial answer to that would be, because I am someone that completely, I'm telling you, the first time my daughter brought it up, I was adamantly against it. And I can tell you it wasn't from a biblical place, even though I was trying to put a biblical spin on it, that we want to equip our daughter to be like Christ in this school, and we need to help her get there. And then I literally allowed myself to open my heart and pray, and God going, I have given, like some people don't have this ability. I've given you and your wife the ability to bring her home and love her with me and mold her into who God wants her to be. And we're seeing that happen. And I want to be really clear. Like, I'm not going, me and my wife are just killing it. Her love for the gospel, her desire. And I also think, like, you know, not trying to put all our business out there, but she's had a lot of health issues this year. Thankfully she's homeschooled. So that has made it a whole lot easier for her. And the cool part is, like, we took her to the homecoming game at the school that she should have been at this past homecoming, and a ton of her friends that she went to school with were like, hey, how's it going? And like, she's just with pride, like just sharing, like, I'm loving it. Like I get to do this, and I, you know, and just like all these things. And like, you're watching kids like, that's really cool. Like, and, you know, I just think, I would challenge parents to pray about what is best. And maybe homeschool is not best for your child. But I would tell you to really seek God on what that looks like. And if you do think it's homeschool and it's not possible, ask yourself why it's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take. I don't know what else y'all want to add.
I would say, like, you guys are killing it. Though, but, you know, to have a daughter and a son that are submitted to Christ, like that. I mean, that what other for Christians and as Christian parents, what other definition of killing it as parents can you have, whether it's by your doing or not? And I know y'all are intentionally trying to do that, but, you know, mission accomplished. That's so incredible. May it ever be so. May it continue on down that path, right? But that's something to be proud of, and not in a pharisaical way. Just like, thank you, God. Thank you, God. I don't know where that came from. A little accent. Thank you,
You
God.
just been in tongue for a minute.
Yeah, but thank you, God, for, like, you know, that my children are submitted to your will. That's like, whew, man, that gives me chills. Like, that's what I want for my kids. I think the biblical approach, I think it's case by case. I really do.
Mhm.
I really do. I think because in this season right now, like I said, I'm wrestling with it because it's like, man, it's like Miles is getting all this one-on-one, and I think that is what he needs for his identity, for him to be secure in himself. He needs all this extra time with his mommy so she can affirm in him that he's a strong young boy, and he needs extra time with his dad, and like that's what he needs in this season. And I could very well see the other kids needing that in the future too. So TBD, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would definitely say that it is something that, first off, both if you're in a situation where you have husband and wife in the home, that you need to be in agreement to that, because though it would be one doing the teaching, you both have to be on the same page of what that looks
100%.
like.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say you need to seek the Lord after it, but not everybody has that opportunity. I know godly people who don't have that at this point in their life, that they can't homeschool, both have to work and you know, be away. However, like, the reality is that the Lord will make a way, and if you are called to do that, if you are praying about it, like, He'll make a way. And that's just the reality of it. I don't think that there is a right or wrong. I think it's, if the Lord provides a way and both are inclined to it and are in agreement with it, then make it happen.
Don't sell God short. The same thing, that open hand mindset.
Yeah.
You,
For sure.
If you said yes and he's empowering you to do it, move forward.
Amen. All right. Well, this has been Culture on Tap. Paul, thank you so much for stopping by for a
Absolutely.
month.
I love you guys. It was a pleasure.
We've appreciated it.
Yeah,
We've
thank you.
appreciated your insight on all of these different topics, and we'll definitely have you back on. But thank you for tapping in with us and being a light to our audience, even though it's like 5 people.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you.
Yeah, I wanna
We appreciate you. We love you. Heck, you and I were in the trenches together. Been through a lot, laughs, cries,
through a whole heap to get
a whole heap.
Yeah.
But I love you and thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Thank you guys for tapping in with us. We will see you guys next week. Platinum, playing the best classic hits. You can download the Houston Radio Platinum app. It's in your app store, or just ask Alexa to play Houston Radio Platinum.